All right. Well, welcome back to the Pete Podcast, where we discuss the latest in REI tech, trends, and inspo. I'm MJ. I'm going to be your host as usual, and I'm really excited to welcome Sam Wegert to the show today. So welcome, Sam. How are you?
I am doing super well, super excited for this call. Thanks for having me, MJ, and just super excited to dive into some fun things.
Yeah, of course. Well, you have had quite a journey in real estate, and I'm excited to see how my research, my rogue research, matches up with you actually telling us your journey. Um, so for those of you who don't know, Sam has built quite a few different businesses, but Scale Your Real Estate, and he helps investors focus on how they can scale their REI businesses by accessing co-living. And so before we get into all of that, I mean, I don't know, tell us a little bit about you. I'm gonna do a little bit of a preview. I think you had multiple siblings, maybe
Yeah.
7 or so growing up. I can't imagine that, helped inspire you for what you do now. But yeah, tell us about just how did you get here and where did you start, I guess. That's the
Yeah.
most exciting thing.
Yeah, for sure. I think it was Elon Musk that said, or maybe it was Ben Franklin. I don't know exactly
Oh,
where the quote came from. But we're just gonna go with. He
we're gonna fact check
said,
this later.
Yeah, yeah. Google this. ChatGPT. Fortunes are often made in the places that other people call crazy. And I think that I was uniquely positioned from a young age to think a little bit outside of the box, which is how I fell into co-living.
Okay.
In co-living is, I believe, the fastest way to achieve cash flow and passive income in the real estate marketplace today. And I
Okay.
think it may not always be. It wasn't 5, 10 years ago, but it is
Mhm.
now. I truly believe that. And we can talk about that in this podcast. I want to kind of start off because I think it's important for people to understand this is the fastest way to get to financial freedom. And that's the sword I'm dying on right now. It's like, yes, I've
Yeah.
seen it happen. I've seen it in my profile. So I was, co-living is this strategy where 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. One of our biggest homes has 11 people sharing a single family home.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
it feels crazy. It feels out there. And people are like, there's no way that'll work. And there's no way people will actually do that and survive.
Mhm.
But when people understand my upbringing, for me, it wasn't crazy because I was raised in a 1,900 square foot house with there were 8 kids. So me plus 7 siblings, plus my mom and
Mhm.
dad. So that's 10 people, 1,900 square feet, 3-bedroom septic. And in the country, and we were all homeschooled. So we were home
Yeah.
24/7.
Yeah. You were
So
using
for
the
me,
home, right? The home didn't
yeah,
fall apart. It was there. It was standing,
yeah,
housing 10 of you. Yeah.
exactly.
Huge.
And we had
You're
our fights, but we got along. Yeah.
I was gonna say that you're bringing me back to way back when. I won't date myself just yet, but when had first moved to Brooklyn, and I was living with I think 6 other, but this was roommates, right? So different. But yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
living with yeah, it was a house of 7. Thank God our landlord didn't want to play mom or dad and live with us. but, but
That's it.
it
That's
happens
co-living. That
though.
is in essence co-living. Yeah.
It happens. Yeah. And
Yeah.
and there are many, I mean, yeah, it happens. And there are many, like success stories from great, partnerships, friendships, things that just organically develop.
That's right.
So yeah, go ahead. You're taking me back though,
No, it's exactly that. I mean, that
you know?
story of you doing that is co-living, is co-living it naturally forming. Maybe one friend kind of being the leader of their friends and being like, why don't you, and kind of coming together, or 3 friends get together and then they all bring one friend and it ends up 6 people living together.
Yeah.
And so it's funny because I'll get a lot of people that'll comment on my ads or whatever that are out there, and people will be like, you're talking about this like it's a new thing and it's been around as long as time's been around. I'm like, you're right. Like it has. This is not like
Mhm.
shared housing is not new.
It's not new.
To
Yeah.
your point that you just made, right? It's like I did this, but I think what's new about it is that I, as an investor, now have systems and a platform and a way to invest in it at scale. Meaning, like my wife and I own 200 rooms.
Mhm.
In our community, we have 2,500 rooms. So it's not like, hey, I have one home and 5 people share that home. It's like, hey, we can do this at scale, consistently get cash flow with systems and be somewhat passive. I'm not a big believer in purely passive income. There's passive-ish income where you got to keep an eye on everything, but we have a team
Yeah.
that manages it. And so I say that to say that's kind of what's new. Like you couldn't do that
Mhm.
10 years ago. It wasn't like people were buying unless there's this thing people would say like boarding houses or rooming houses,
Mhm.
were
Mhm.
kind of a thing post World War II where people would just kind of, they needed cheap places to live, and they all kind of, so that was maybe a little more
Yeah.
common, but it wasn't really it wasn't like an investment asset class. And
Mm.
now what we're seeing is co-living is emerging as like, well, you can buy single family homes, you can
And
buy
then yeah.
warehouses, or you can buy co-living. And it's kind of, it's equaling that same, uh, it's entering the marketplace in that way,
Yeah, in its own
which is
right.
really unique.
Yeah, and would you for those of us who don't know, would, you know, walk us through what a property that kind of qualifies as a co-living investment,
Yeah.
how that is the same or different than what we, see out there right now. Like I remember, so was my situation considered a co-living situation when I had six roommates? Would that
Just out of curiosity, like who was there, like one lease on that? Do you remember if there was like one lease on it? You all were on the lease,
Ooh,
or like, just
that is a
curious?
great question. No, there were, I know you're taking me back. Some things I want to remember, some things I don't. I'm like, oof, let's actually,
Like,
let's
I
pivot,
forgot
let's
about
hard
that.
pivot away.
Yeah.
I believe we each signed leases individually. Yeah. We each had a room, there was
Yeah.
sometimes a shared bathroom or something like
Yeah.
that, but yeah, separate leases.
That's co-living. We say it's house hacking
Yeah.
if you own a home and you're living in one room and you're trying to like rent out the other rooms to either cut down on your housing costs, or maybe you just, like for me when I had my first house, wasn't really even about cost as much as it was like, I don't want to live in a house by myself. Like I was
Yeah.
like, I'm come from a
Yeah.
come from a big family, we're home all together.
Yeah,
It's too quiet
exactly.
here. I need some commotion,
You're like, oh, I don't want to deal with my
So
thoughts.
exactly.
Mm.
Meditate. Wait, is enough matter? So for me, it was a lot of uh getting to a place where I'm, so that's where I was going with that. So house hacking, you live there, you're trying to reduce your rent, but you're living there, and it
Yeah.
becomes co-living when it's like, hey, what's the cash on cash return of that property? It's a business now. Like, hey, should we
Mhm.
sell that? Because it's not. Hey, what's the vacancy rate been? What were the capex the last 12 months? Like, when you start like talking about this property as like, it's a true investment property, it's
Mhm.
got to perform, and if it doesn't, I'm going to sell it or offload it. It's not just
Yeah.
me living with some roommates to have. So in your case, if the landlord wasn't living there and there was a true landlord that was making money from that house, then yeah, that's a co-living arrangement. I'm
Yeah.
assuming that was, you said college, was that college days?
No, it was post actually. It was when I had
Okay.
first move is a little over probably like 10-ish years ago. First moved to New York. And to be honest, I didn't have a network. I didn't have an
Yeah.
existing network. So I was like, I could either buy a studio or buy a,
Yeah.
a one bedroom in a really far place, maybe not the
Right.
best neighborhood either,
Right.
or I could suck it up and live with a couple of people for however long. And I mean, I made some of my closest, I got a bridesmaid out of that. I was a
I was
bridesmaid
gonna ask, like, what
at
was the
her wedding.
experience?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, it was phenomenal. I made one of my best friends actually, out of that, and she was a bridesmaid at my wedding, and she's
Yeah.
one of my closest people. But it was
So
because we survived the trenches, as well,
yeah.
as well. And we, you know, um,
It's interesting
but it was
because
fun.
one of the
Yeah.
things that I think people discount, there was a notice that came out from the Surgeon General of the United States. This was a while ago now, but they were saying that like one of the biggest kind of crises in America that literally nobody's talking about, is loneliness and social isolation, and
Mm.
how we're all connected on the phones, but we're not actually, she even made the analogy, that the Surgeon General made the analogy of like, hey, the effect of like social isolation and loneliness on our bodies is equal to, and it was like a pack and a half of cigarettes a day.
Oh my
Like
goodness.
that's the negative mental and emotional health effect of this.
Yeah.
And so it's like, wow, like, okay, so bringing people together, I think there's a mission behind co-living. Like, yes, I believe it's the fastest way to achieve financial freedom in the marketplace today,
Yeah.
but there is a mission behind it, and there's an affordable housing mission,
Hmm.
and there is a like bringing people together. Like, let's not all live in our. America's kind of this place where it's like, I have my box. I want my box. I want my space. I want my car. I want this. We're very individualistic in that way. Give me
Yeah.
my gun, as if you're in the
Yes.
South. I want my gun and my knife, and you can't take that away from me here. And it's
Yeah.
like, okay.
Yeah.
So we all want our own. The American dream is the white picket fence, and I've got this, and this is mine. But
Yeah.
there is a shared economy that's coming here for necessity, and I think because
Hmm.
people are craving some of this, right? So you see these shared experiences. You say Airbnb is like Airbnb and Uber are probably the two biggest examples of a shared economy, and I think
Yeah.
co-living will be the third next biggest.
Yeah.
And when Airbnb and Uber came out, what did everybody say about those? Everybody was like, "That's
No
crazy."
one's
It's
gonna
like,
do that. Yeah, I'm not gonna get in a car, but yeah, exactly.
get
Exactly.
in
I'm
a
not
car
gonna
with
do
strangers, and
Uber.
the app
Yeah.
tells you to drop them off on somewhere you don't even
Yeah.
know. Like, yeah, that'll
Yeah.
never work. And now we have Uber, and we're like, just
Yeah.
take it so for granted. So co-living is the beginning stages of that. So one of the things I try to share with people is like, look, this is a trend, and you can get into it at the very beginning.
Hmm.
By
Mhm.
being a little bit of a forward thinker and doing what the famous hockey player Wayne Gretzky said.
Yeah.
I was like, I'm successful because I skate to where the puck is going, not to where the
Mhm.
puck is.
Is right now.
And I
Yeah.
do believe this is
Yeah.
Airbnb 2011, 20.
So fascinating. Yeah, and I mean I have so many questions. I think, like one of the pieces that I pull out or I just extracted from what you're sharing is there is a genuine trend that is going towards this, and it's based out of two pieces, right? There might be the financial necessity, an aspect of that. There's also a huge housing shortage in our country, right? And so there's there's that element, and then there's also the emotional side of what it is to be a human. We all crave social connection,
Yeah,
you
that's
know,
right.
and that is that's vastly important. I think especially after everyone experienced the pandemic and in the last 5 years, it's really made
Yeah,
people
that's right.
think about what does matter to me, what does actually give me joy, and who am I doing that with, and how am I spending my time?
Yeah,
So it's interesting. It's interesting to see that. Can you tell us a little bit about what you know, how it affects you when you think about kind of the housing epidemic and the
yeah,
crisis that we're kind of seeing in this country and where the market's at and whatnot?
yeah. I mean, 600,000 people will be homeless tonight in the richest country supposedly in the world, which is America, right? Like, so it's
Yeah.
like, all right,
Wild.
we're not doing, and there are, I don't have the exact stats on this, but there are hundreds of thousands of people in every major city in America that don't make what we would consider a living wage, right?
Hmm.
Which is really
Yeah.
enough after taxes, after Social Security, after all these different things to pay for, an average studio apartment price plus anything else.
Yeah.
So what you end up having is you have these people that are starting to look for just other alternative ways to live, right? And so it
Yeah.
could be anything from the baggage handler at the airport that puts your bags on and he makes $22 an hour, or he fixes your car and he makes 17.50 an hour plus this, or they serve
Hmm.
you at a
Hmm.
restaurant and they work from tips. And there, if you look in any major city, there's hundreds of thousands of people that fit this, or someone that recently that we just came across that lives in one of our homes. She's a call center worker. She makes $15 an hour, but she gets little tips and bonuses based on like what she sells. She sells like DirecTV or something.
Okay.
So you've got hundreds of thousands of people that fit this working demographic that need some other type of housing, and so we're
Yeah.
filling that gap. When you go all in, if someone's listening to this and they're like, that sounds interesting, like I could see myself doing that. If you go all in on co-living investing, or even just a little bit in on co-living investing, you become a really cool thing. You become an inventor. And I pitch it to people as like, you're an inventor. You're an inventor of a new price point that literally did not exist on the market before. Because in every city, the cheapest thing, you mentioned this earlier,
Hmm.
is a studio apartment. And if someone can't afford a studio apartment, there is nothing cheaper than that in a city except for some sort of shared arrangement or a shelter or
100%.
something like that.
Yeah.
It's just
Yeah.
it's as cheap as that.
Yeah.
So when we do co-living, we're like, hey, we're putting something in the market that is 50 to 70%, depending on the price, depending on a lot of different factors, but 50 to 70% of what the cheapest thing is. So I'm inventing new price points.
Yeah.
And we're seeing regulation. We're seeing politicians get behind this in a really big way. The
Hmm.
best example recently was the governor of Colorado. And if anybody has ever walked the streets of Denver, like you cannot walk Denver. I just was there. Like I was like,
Hmm.
holy cow, this is in your face. Like just the homelessness epidemic is there. Hey,
Yeah.
it's intense. You and so the governor of Colorado came out and said, hey, I'm making it illegal for any town, any city, any jurisdiction to regulate the number of unrelated people in a home. Meaning, like I'm
Oh,
renewing all those restrictions. I'm protected
yeah.
people. He's like 15 adults want to get together and share a house together because that's what they want to do.
Hmm.
They're adults. It's none of the government's business. They can do that.
Yeah.
And that was
Huge.
huge because those are
That's
some of the
huge.
protections that we have to play around. Yeah.
Yeah. Do,
So I'm
have you?
passionate about it solving housing, and I'm passionate about it just being good for the economy as well.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's great, especially when it's so relevant, like you said, with everything that's been going on and that is going on right now. What, something you just mentioned, Sam, you know, do you find that the greatest opportunities for co-living are within cities and like metropolitan areas, or how, like where do you guys focus on this? Are you, within a single state? Are you, in multiple states?
Yeah.
For folks who are listening, like where do you think those opportunities, the best opportunities are
Yeah.
right now?
Yeah, my wife and I's personal properties are all in Charlotte, North Carolina, and Asheville, North Carolina. That's just kind of
Okay.
where we decided to kind of plant our flag and build our teams.
Hmm.
But we now have almost 2,500 doors in our community, co-living doors, and so we get to see this now working in probably 35, 40 cities around the United States.
Wow.
Which
Wow.
is really cool.
Huge. That's amazing.
Yeah, in
Yeah.
a lot of states. I mean, a lot of states. So,
Yeah.
um, I say that to say, you're in New York. So one of my students recently, I say fairly recently, got a home in, is it Glenville or Glen? It's this tiny little town, upstate New York. No,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
I think it's Glenville.
Um,
And
I'm not as familiar with upstate, but yeah, I was gonna say
yeah,
there might even be a Glendale or a Glenville. There's a Glen Cove, Long Island, but yeah.
okay, yeah,
Either way,
no, it's
upstate, yeah.
further up than that. But it's anyway, they were just like, man, we're in this tiny little town. Like, is this gonna
Mhm.
work? But they bought their first 7-bedroom home, and they filled it within like 3 weeks. It was crazy. And so
Okay.
same with Asheville. Asheville's a town of about 60,000 people. And when I bought my
Yeah.
first house there, I had some of those same kind of things too. I was just like, man, is it going to work here? Like, I know it works in big cities with millions of people where there's just this huge, obviously, need and there's jobs. And so people are moving.
Mhm.
What about this city? And what we learned through that was sometimes, actually, believe it or not, smaller cities work better. And the reason to that is because there's just like Asheville's a great example. It's like, it's not looking to expand. The city's not like, so housing is frankly more expensive in this touristy town. Colorado has a lot of this too. Colorado has a lot of these mountain touristy towns that are not looking to expand and create a bunch more housing. They're
Yeah.
tourist towns, but the service workers have nowhere to live, right? And so,
Okay.
so a lot of these small cities and towns that have even more expensive, housing than say the big cities that are still developing and growing and building
Yeah,
sewer.
building potentially. Uh-huh. Yeah.
Yeah, they can actually keep costs a little lower. So
Huh, it's
it
interesting.
works anywhere there is a need for housing. And
Yeah.
that is not a hard thing to identify. You can call the city zoning. You can just call the city and be like, tell us about your need for housing that's this price to this price. And they'll,
Mhm.
they'll tell you, because they have a pulse to people or you talk to a realtor, you talk to the city, or you just get a vibe
Yeah.
for that city and you can usually figure that out.
Yeah, that's fascinating. I mean, and within Asheville, do you have a student population there as well? Is there Are there universities, or is that, not
They
really?
kind of shy away from students, to be honest. It's
Well,
really a different game.
yeah,
It's
yeah.
it's 9-month leases. It's mom and dad on the lease.
Yeah.
They want to party a lot. It's
Yeah.
not. I'm not saying all students want that, but I'm saying
It
we
is a different
focus
tenant.
on.
Yeah, it's a different
Yeah,
intention also with renting and,
that's right.
what your living situation is. So,
That's right.
I think that's
We want this to be home
yeah.
for
Yeah.
working professionals. Should
Yeah,
make three
yeah.
times the monthly rent. That makes that make
Yeah.
some multiple of the monthly rent.
Mhm.
The room could be $700 a month, so it's not like I need to be crushing, but
Yeah, and
that's what we're looking for.
what have you and your wife seen for, like length of lease? So,
Yeah,
if you're putting in like a year, I imagine
it's
maybe
initially.
more. How long do you see some folks staying? Because they're working professionals, like you said, right? So a little bit different.
Yeah, it widely varies. It
Okay.
really widely varies based on the market, and based on how it's managed. is,
Hmm.
is is huge right now.
Yeah.
But I mean, we're seeing lease. Yeah, we put people in like an initial lease term for us. Our company operates a lot like a traditional apartment manager. Like it's like you can do 3 months, you can do 6 months. Those are going to be at premiums. You can do 9 months,
Yes.
you can do 12 months. But I mean, we have a company recently that's coming to Charlotte to help with some management, and their average length of stay is 18 months.
Hmm.
Um,
Okay.
we'd love for it to be longer, but that's kind of what we're seeing right now. I think it will get longer as this space matures and develops and people kind of recognize this is a real housing option, not just a transitional type thing. It's like, hey, this
Yeah.
is a real housing option. So a lot of this is like educating people in the marketplace and like, hey, this is
And
done
to
really
see.
professionally, it's done really well.
Yeah.
And that's where we're at.
No, that's great. And like you I want to ask, I know that you weren't doing real estate for, for forever. Did you
Yeah.
have a background in martial arts of some sort, or
Yeah.
and is that a requirement for co-living? And
Yeah. Have to be a black belt. You have to get a black belt in order to do co-living. Yeah.
tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, again, like my parents were really kind of thought outside the box. They
Mhm.
were kind of like edgy in the way of doing things before um they were really popular. So they were like
Yeah.
homeschooling when they had to get a lawyer to like fight for the right to homeschool. Now it's very popular in the States,
Huh.
especially after COVID and everything, right? So that was that. And then my parents also, we didn't do a lot of the traditional sports. We did, my mom put me in martial arts when I was really young, and I ended up buying a martial arts school when I was super young. They loaned me a little bit of money, and I built a chain of martial arts schools across Virginia, North Carolina, and South Carolina, and that was my first
Wow.
foray into entrepreneurship, and I was really proud of that
Yeah.
journey. And it was really it really helped me just build confidence in myself and my abilities. It's Martial arts is so good for just your discipline and staying focused on something. I mean, it takes 3 years to get a black belt, and most people don't. You know,
Hang up
it's
for
hard to
that long.
get
Yeah.
somebody at a young age to stick with something for that long,
Yeah.
right? It takes a lot of effort, and it's hard, and you fail a lot, and
Yeah.
there's some bruises, and there's some things you have to go through. So I'm such a huge fan of martial arts in general as just a sport. It's a very personal kind of individual journey. There can be a team element in competitions and tournaments, but just
Yeah.
cannot recommend that highly enough, especially for kids. And I was the kid who wouldn't look you in the eye and shake your hand at the same time. I was just
Stop it.
shy,
Really? Wow.
introverted. Yeah, I've learned a lot.
Yeah.
Well, I got put in sales really young too, and I was like,
By your parents
come
or no?
on, man. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Oh man.
So
You're
that was a little bit about my journey, and then through kind of a unfortunate series of events, I um ended up selling it. It was my CEO of the company that I had running everything ended up doing some drugs and kind of going off the deep end a little bit. And I just
yeah,
like,
I'm sorry to hear
my
that.
heart's not in this, and I'm gonna
Yeah.
step in and move into real
Yeah.
estate at the time. So real estate wasn't really my main focus. It was a means to an end. It was a place to put. It was what I call, and I think everybody should have one of these. It was what I called the second engine. So
Hmm.
whatever you're doing in life, like go all in on it.
Yeah.
But everything doesn't always do well in life. So what is the second engine? And I know there's people out there that'll say, don't have a backup plan, go all in on plan A. But I'm just like, I have money. I'm going to skim some off the top. I'm not going to put it all back into my business.
Yeah.
And I'm going to put it into this thing that I think will do well in 10, 15 years. And I'm going to buy co-living homes. And so I just kind of fell into that and started doing that, and it turned out really well for me.
Yeah, it seems like it. No, it's amazing to hear, and it's what I love about this is the thing that we like to kind of explore on this show is what are the different avenues? What are the different,
Mhm.
kind of cracks and crevices that investors and entrepreneurs are going into
Yeah.
exploring um and really like either they're succeeding or they're failing and learning lessons and taking those lessons with and pumping it into
Yeah.
the next dream. So it's fun to explore that with you. And I
Yeah.
I I heard you mention like way earlier on, right, that what's different really like markedly about this time is that we have the power of and he said systems and like automations, all these different
Yeah.
platforms to really
Yeah.
scale and do this at a level that maybe wasn't possible before. So like walk us through that's something that I'll just say personally, like being at Pete REI, we love talking about systems and
Yeah.
the importance of
Software, right?
yeah, of software. Like, are you using the right tools right now
Yeah.
for where your business is at so that you can scale it to the next level and the next level?
Yeah.
And what are the systems or, kind of the pieces that you really think about? I imagine you have to have some sort of property management, company,
Yeah.
if not multiple, but
Yeah.
tell us a little bit about what you couldn't imagine running your business without, like today,
Yeah,
you
and
know?
I mean, maybe it'd be interesting if Pete looked into like what it would look like, because there's definitely a niche that's emerging in the co-living management space for sure. I know you mentioned you guys are getting into the manage
Yeah.
of
Yeah.
bringing in that
Property management. Yeah.
the software that manages these deals.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but there are some nuances to co-living uh that allow it to be a little bit unique.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it's the software side of things for co-living is interesting. There are a couple of tech companies out there that are trying to go really, I mean, I'm talking multiple nine figure, like I've raised
Hmm.
capital from Mark Cuban,
I
gone
bet.
pretty big on co-living, and
Yeah.
have a very custom software, and even bring in similar to maybe what Airbnb was, when they
Hmm.
first launched, of like, we want to be this for short-term rentals, and that
Yeah.
there are some companies out there trying to kind of vie for that space. So that has a lot of the tech that you need, but you're kind of forced to use, similar to Airbnb, you're forced to
Hmm.
use them. It's not a
It's not an option. Yeah. Like,
Yeah,
hey. Hmm.
it's very much, a very costly, it's usually a very costly option to manage your properties, but it can do really well, and I'm a big fan of those,
Okay.
if it's the right thing for you. But then if someone says, well, I don't want to use, one of these tech companies, I prefer to do this on my own because it feels like it's a lot. It's kind of like a long term. It's kind of like a mini apartment building with some nuances, which is
Hmm.
true. But there are some nuances. If you don't do it correctly, then it can definitely go
Yeah.
sideways real fast. And the option for that is basically like to find a property management software that you can do all your. So we use currently AppFolio, which I think is one of the really big ones.
Yep. Yep.
But even
I
it
know them.
for
Yep.
co-living, it's even clunky. Like it's not.
Hmm.
You kind of have to.
Yeah. There's not like a custom solution that has been,
Yeah,
yeah, has
yeah.
really
And there's just people out
understood.
there trying to create them, but they're not
Hmm.
great yet.
Yeah. That makes sense. Yep.
And then it's kind of what you said earlier. And I think it was one of the reasons you guys probably were driven to create Pete of like, hey, there's all these softwares. We need to put it all into one. It's kind
Yep.
of that co-living kind of right now, unless you use, one of these big tech platforms, similar to like the Airbnb. It could be a pad split or a bungalow or a common or a home room or something like this, which those are kind of the four big ones. And actually common went out of business. So there's three. Um, then you are kind of hodgepodging stuff together, and it's
Yeah.
Monday for this, and it's AppFolio for this, and it's GoHighLevel for for leads and incoming leads.
Yeah.
You're managing, bringing people in and sales of the rooms through a different software, and so there's a lot of that that's not really always super fun.
Hmm.
So maybe you should talk to the people at Pete about that.
I was just gonna say, hey, I think we have to have a follow-up conversation. Actually,
Exactly.
sounds like there's
How good are they at
part
creating?
two.
It's
um.
a niche. It's a niche for
Yeah.
sure, and that's it's a fun place to be in because it's new and it's emerging, and I think there's just crazy amounts of potential.
Yeah.
But just like anything else, and people always tell me, it's like, well, if you wait for it to mature, the
Yeah.
returns will not be as high.
You're missing
Similar to like
exactly.
an
Yeah.
Airbnb. You can buy an Airbnb right now, but you ain't getting
Mhm.
what you got in
Yeah.
5 years ago in an Airbnb. So
10 years ago. Yeah,
10 years ago.
exactly. I used to, what's funny is before I lived in New York, when I'd have to, I mean, I was telling you, I used to travel to Asheville and to all of
Yeah.
North Carolina. I would,
Yeah.
for sales trips, I would stay at Airbnbs. And so I
Yeah.
just realized I'm like, and oftentimes I just rent a room, right? Because also as a female traveling solo, when I was traveling in newer areas, I'd be like, I'd actually prefer if there's other women or like there's a family around so that, I just
Yeah.
because I'm here for 3 days or a week and
Yeah.
it's kind of nice to have have some sort of network. So
Yeah.
really interesting.
That's super cool.
Really interesting to see kind of this trend and this trajectory that co-living's taking. And I guess the last question I'll ask you, Sam, like in our time here is, for someone who's getting into this, and they're new to it, I know you have a really robust coaching community. So I do want to
Yeah.
say, um,
We do. Yeah.
to those of you listening, if you're interested, even 5% or 2.5%, hit Sam up. All of his info will be, linked to this session in this episode. Um, and consider, working with him and kind of like absorbing all that knowledge. But for someone who's just getting into this, what are some lessons like that you can share that you wish you had known, when you got started? Maybe some things you
Yeah.
can avoid for for the rest of
Yeah.
us.
Some
Yeah.
save some people some
Yeah.
right here. I love it. I love, by the way, just want to say this as a comment that you've had so many positive experiences with this shared living, which is really what it is. So it's just
Yeah.
beautiful here, actually, and it's
Well,
really
and
cool.
and just on that note, Sam, like the other pieces in this day and age, I mean, that was like 15 years ago. There's even more data that's available. So when you are looking for a place, there's more reviews. There's other elements where you can actually do that research to know. So I also do think it's like about your perspective and how you go into it, right? So
100%.
that
Yeah.
helps. Yeah.
Yeah. As far as lessons go, I would just say, for me, starting co-living almost a decade and a half ago 2011 was when I bought my first house hack, but turned into co-living property.
Yeah.
So that was, almost a decade and a half. And there's just a lot of little lessons and things that I did to fail. I mean, just everything from learning, okay, we called them peanut butter problems when Johnny recall about, these little like tiffs between members and like learning
Yeah.
to label things in a specific way in the cabinets and like simple things, stupid things that people might be like, oh, it's so basic. But like those things help reduce conflict, right? Or how we
Yeah.
furnish a common area. So there's not like couches and things like that, but there's more of a coffee bar type feel to this
Hmm.
common area, little things like that. So that it was a place for people to connect, but not like lay down on the couch and take a nap for 3 hours, like simple
Yeah.
little things like that.
Yeah. Respect the
Um,
fact that it's still a common space that, yeah.
exactly.
Yeah,
Exactly.
that would have helped me hugely, so in those situations, great.
Everything from how to finance these things, because that's a
Yeah.
nuanced to how to get these members and how to vet these members correctly to make sure they're going to be a good fit for the community. I mean, there's a lot of these little details that kind of come together to make this work. And
Yeah.
a lot of those little lessons, how to lay out the bedrooms, where to add new bathrooms, what's the bedroom to bathroom ratio you need?
Hmm.
What do I do with a garage? And so I think all these things we just learned to kind of optimize,
Yeah,
to get the highest cash flow, but also create a really great experience for the people living in the home. And so
that's
that is
great.
what we teach. And you're right.
Yeah,
If someone even has 1% or 2.5% interest in this, like, we do a free training. That's kind of our way that people get started in our coaching program. So obviously there is an offer, but it's not a hard pitched offer at all. It is just
well,
a,
I'll hard pitch offer. Yeah, if
you can hard
guys,
pitch
if
it
you're
for them.
interested, yeah, that's what I'm here for. No, but really, like, if you are, if this, this episode has at all tickled any sort of curiosity that you have, this
Yeah.
Sam is the guy. Like, you need to speak with him. You need to get in touch with a member of his team because like, what are you waiting for, really, right? And so
Yeah.
the worst thing that can happen is that you learn a few things and maybe decide, oh, maybe this isn't the strategy for me or for right now. But the flip of that is quite vast. So you'd be remiss to not. But I think that's probably about the time that we have for today, Sam. And I just want to say thank you, man. It's really exciting what you guys are up to, and I'm looking around being like, wait a minute, my sister-in-law is looking for a place now,
Yeah.
in New York. I'm like, is this one of Sam's properties? I don't know. But this is I think it's a pretty phenomenal trend that you guys have kind of capitalized on. So we're wishing you the best and excited to see what is to come. But thank you.
Appreciate it. Thank you for the time
Yeah.
to be on.